do. But to be very honest, I worked on very limited on top of the API automation. And before we start with the API automation, so just wanted to check with you guys like what you know about the API automation. Can you just unmute and tell me? So in interviews, right, like what generally they'll ask the question is in interview questions, did you worked on API automation? Explain what activities do we have for API automation. So generally they will ask for this question. And the next question can be, what are the different methods we have in API? So these are the questions generally they will ask. And we are not going to discuss that right away the questions, but we will see that going further. And one more question is, what is the output or response of an API? So these are the questions generally the question in interviews asked. In the interviews, these are the questions which will be asked generally for API automation.
Apart,
The reason,
some asks authentication
yeah,
methods in the API testing.
yeah, that is also can be a question, but I never seen that that was asked. Anyhow, like we are going to cover it. Different methods of authentication into API. So this I never saw like someone asked in UiPath interviews. What I have seen is like majority of the cases, these are the scenarios which I have seen like the questions were asked. And the reason, I'll tell you the reason also, because in UiPath, right, like very less API automation we generate. Sorry, guys. So the reason is in UiPath, uh, we will be doing the API automation very limited. That actually looks like the reason is with almost all the APIs and the applications, the drag and drop activities are already available. Let us suppose if we take the service now, it is we need to do the API calls and we have the activity package. And if you take the Jira Atlassian, we have the activity package. If you take the Salesforce, you have the activity package. So in the backend for the activities, it is actually going with the API, but we already have the activities available. That might be the reason. But this question, whatever you specified, right, Satish, that is a very pretty much valid question, and that is required to know because we will be having a lot of different methods to authenticate API. Okay. So before we go for an API, right, I want to take up this question. This will be my primary question, irrespective of what the other things. So my primary question is this: what is the yeah, क्या हो गया इसका? Okay. I want to take up this question. What is the output or a response of an API? Can anyone tell me this?
Yeah, JSON or header.
JSON string. It's not even JSON, it's a JSON string. So what is JSON? JavaScript object
It's a
notation.
JavaScript object notation.
Yes. And forget about like JavaScript object notation or a JSON or whatever it might be. Let us forget for a while. So how it is also a data type in UiPath. It is also a type of a variable, like how we are dealing with the strings, how we are dealing with the date time, how we are dealing with the array, how we are dealing with the list, like the data types, right? So in the similar way, JSON object is also a data type. So here, how it actually works. If you remember, we discussed about the dictionary, right? Did we remember? We discussed about the dictionary. It's a key value pair, right? Based on the keys, we will be getting the values. Are you following, guys? In the similar way, how JSON will work is node content. Why I'm saying content? It can be a value. It can be another JSON. When I say content, I don't know what exactly the word will be used, but I'm just putting it as a content. The reason is based on the node, we will get the value, whatever we have under the node. And it can be a JSON string or it can be a value. The content can be another JSON string as well, or a value. Directly we make out the value also. So this is about the JSON. But the output is a string. See, here the output type is a string value. It's not an JSON. So whatever the output we are getting from an API is a string type. It's not the JSON type. Whatever the output we are getting is not a JSON type. It is a string data type. And this string is in the format of JSON object, which can be passed to JSON object data type. Got it, guys? See, whatever the output we are getting from the API is not the JSON object. It is a string object. Its data type is a string. And this string is in the format of JSON object schema. Okay, and which can be passed to JSON object. So which means it is convertible to JSON object. If you take, right, if I put so what is this data type? Can anyone tell me? What is the data type of this? Guys, what is the data type of this? String. Because it's under the double quotes. What this is a date time format, date, which means convertible to date time object, right? In the similar way, whatever the output we are getting is a string and can be converted to JSON object. Parsing or converting is nothing but both are same. Are you guys following or just listening?
Following path.
Yeah. Okay. So whatever the output we got from the API is a string data type, which is which is in the format of JSON string and can be converted to JSON object. And JSON object, how do we convert it to the JSON object? How can we convert to JSON string to JSON object? We need to explain, like, see, if the question was asked, what is the output or a response of an API? It is not like we should say only JSON string. We should say that it's a JSON string and can be converted to the JSON object, and then we can utilize the data. So we need to explain how we can convert and how we can utilize that particular JSON data. Okay. So how can we convert JSON string to a JSON object? There is an activity, deserialize JSON. So this deserialized JSON activity will convert JSON string to JSON object. And why are we converting this? Why can't we use the existing JSON string? Why do we want to convert it to JSON object? We are converting, we are deserializing. From here, we can talk, we can start calling it as deserializing. Deserializing the JSON to access the elements. I said content, right? Instead of content, we should call it as elements. We can access the elements with the help of nodes similar to keys in dictionary. So it will be similar. It's not exactly same. It will be similar. Like there we are calling the key and you are getting the value. Here you'll be calling the node and you are going to get the value. Okay. And let us create a project and let us see how we can access this. API automation. Okay. Let us go to deserialize. Don't have it, right? So it will be under the API packages. And for that, we need to install UiPath.web API. .web API .activities. Install. Save. So now we will find the deserialize. See, we have two different things, right? Deserialize XML and deserialize JSON. So this is for the XML files. And previously we used to maintain the configs and all in the XML, but nowadays we are not using XML in very rare cases. In case if you have some XML documents to read, then only we will be using. And the way we work with the deserialized JSON and deserialized XML or accessing the values, everything is almost similar. And in the JSON, we need to pass the JSON string. To pass the JSON string, first we need to identify the JSON file. It's not only response from the API JSON, we can have the JSON files also available. Best example I'll show you. Here project.json is our XML file. Sorry, JSON file. This is our JSON. See how the JSON looks like is. See here, here are my nodes and name is my node and this is my value. Description is my another node. Blank process is my name. Main is my node and main.xaml is my name value. Dependencies is my node and this JSON again. This is another JSON, child JSON is my element. So we can have in this particular way. Okay. Let us start. If you see here, right? If you take this is my node and these are my values. I have multiple values also. So let us see how it actually looks like when we try to work with this project.json to understand more about the JSON thing. Okay. So we'll use the read text file activity to read the JSON file or a text file or XML file, whatever might be the file formats, right? Other than like the Excel or uh, a PDF or a Word document or something, right? We can use the read text file. Read text. Read text file activity. And we can select the project.json. And the output of this will be my project details JSON. Control K. str pros details. This is my string. For a while, I just keep it like that. And I'll use a log message here. And let us see how it looks like for us. So we got all the JSON schema. Why I'm talking about the schema all the time? It's a JSON file data. It's not schema. JSON schema is nothing but, let me write the JSON schema here. JSON schema is nothing but the representation of JSON object with nodes and elements, because it will not have any fixed format. Because if you see, right, let us go here. If you come here, right, here you have seen, right, like for the node we have the name, but for this node we have a child JSON, but here we have an array. Here we have an array. So we cannot say that. See, even under this dependencies, right, we have one child, right? You can have multiple childs inside of it. So there is a possibility. So here we cannot say that all the time. Here we have the entry points, right? And inside that we are having a square brackets, and inside that you have one child JSON, which means this is a JSON array format. So here what will happen is your nodes will not have all the time the same type of the data. So this schema can be defined when, see, this schema will be defined by the developer. Like whenever your API is sending you some response based on the API design, you will have a different schema. In case if your schema changes or node name changes, then again you may need to change your code. So your code is not dynamic in such a way that like the schema or the nodes are changing and it will not work. So it is dynamic. First, let us see here. Now we will deserialize this and we'll try to access the values. Okay. I'm just removing it and we need to pass the string value here. Str. We pass the input and let us get the output of it. Control K. Object. Project details. J object project details. So I just use this activity. I'm not changing anything. And now let me write the name of the project. What is the name? It is API automation, right? Let us try to fetch that value. J object. One second, 1 second. Missing something. Just give me a moment. Getting it. Why? Let me just check it out. Should be JSON object, right? Let us see here variable type. Oops, it is going as an object. No, we need to change this. Now the error is gone. So it's because of the type. Didn't check. We just directly created with the control key, right? We just need to check it. It should be of J object. Now let us write name. Let us execute this. See here, I got the name. Let us go to the description and let us see the description. Blank process. So we are getting the values. But now I want to get what is the version of this Excel activities. So it is under the dependencies, right? So if I take the dependencies, I'll get the whole values. Let us see that. See here, we got the whole values. So to get the Excel activities version, I just, in case if I want to get the Excel activities version, we copy it. And we have the dependencies, right? We'll just put this also in a different brackets. And now it will return us the Excel activities version. What is the version? It is 2.2.0.1. Here it is. So which means in case if we have like inside this, if in case if you have one more, then you can just write all these node values in the hierarchical way and we can fetch the values. So in case your hierarchy of the nodes changes or your node values changes, which means node names are changing, which means your schema is changing. In case if your JSON schema is changing, you cannot access it. Okay. Let us try to do an experiment. I never did it, but let us try. See what values does it print. I'm just exploring it in front of you only. Like this is how we generally work with some activities in case if you doesn't know. Okay, it's not giving the value, but what I'll do is nodes of JSON. It's not that. That is fine. Leave it, leave it, leave it. There will be an option. Last time I made it dynamic actually. Okay. Let's do one thing here. Dot. Okay, leave it for now. And if you see, right, we have seen two activities for the JSON. Here we have a deserialized JSON array. So how it works? Let us go to log message here. Info. And where do we have the array of JSON string? This is an array. It's not array of JSON string. Here the entry points we have the array of JSONs. How we are identifying? Because the whole thing is in the square braces and in between you have a JSON object again, which means we should pick up this. So let us take the string, print the string. We'll get in the braces, which means like it's an array. Square braces. Here it is. In case if I mark this as 0, if I take the 0 index, then you will not get those braces. See here. But let us suppose if I have a JSON object, inside that I have a JSON array, and I'm not sure how many elements do I have, and I need to get the value of one particular node inside of my JSON array schema. So I cannot go on 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Because I'm not sure about the count, and I don't want to take the count also. So somewhere I just need to figure it out. So it is JR. Okay. And if I go here, JR object of 0 dot to string, the same value I'm going to get for sure. See here. And now what I can do is I can use for each loop JRA to string. I can just run this and I'll get the same value because we have only one value. Okay. And now let us suppose if I want to have the file path from this, I can directly use this. Now I'll get the file path. Here it is main.yaml. And I think last time when we are dealing with a JSON to loop through, think I have done a mistake. Let us do one thing. JObject pros details. Let us go with this. Dot. We now run this process. See here, we got all the top level names. And inside of each top level name, we can access the values. If you see, right, let me do one thing. Let me just do this minimize. Perfect. So name, description, main dependencies. Name, description, name, main, name, description, main dependencies, web services, entity stores, web services, entity stores, schema version, studio version, and project version. Runtime options, design options. Runtime option, design options. Expression language, entry points. Expression language, entry points, each template. Template project data, publish data, target framework. See here, we got all the high level nodes. So we can even loop through. See, even for dictionary also we'll use dot keys, right? Here dot key. So now we got this, right? And what I can do is I'll do one thing. Now we can access the each value of the node. See here, we got all the values. And even inside of it also you can get, in case if you have more than one, if you have this type of data, right, we can have it. So we got all the values. And in case if you think that like there is a JSON string inside of it, we can do that. And now let us take it out. We use this JSON array, deserialized JSON array, and based on that we take an array object, right? Why should I use an additional activity here, right? I don't want to use an additional activity. So I know that this is having my array. So what I will do is for each I'm going with this a log message current item dot to string. Let us have this got printed. So I'm not using a JSON array. Run this file. I got the value. So it is not necessary to have the JSON array to be used all the time. We can directly use this, and the program will automatically detect that it is an array of objects based on this particular node and the schema. So this is how we will be working with the JSON object in order to get the values out of it. So we will deserialize the JSON object, and then we will access the values with the help of nodes. And there might be a chance, like when you are answering this question, right, they may ask about JSON array. So JSON array is nothing but the node having multiple JSON strings inside the element. That's it. So are we clear about the JSON object? Or do you have any questions on how to deal with the JSON objects? Splunk connector, I'm not sure, Satish. Like you can just check it out in the UiPath marketplace. Like we have marketplace.uipath.com. So you can check there and you can check in the official packages under the managed packages. So you'll get to know whether we have a connector for the Splunk or not. In case if the APIs are exposed, we can write the connector for ourselves as well. Yeah, Akash, you are asking something. Akash, I can't hear you, man. I don't know about the others, but I cannot hear you. Looks like you're speaking something, but I cannot hear you, Akash.
But now am I audible?
Yes, yes, now you're audible.
Okay. So what basically what I wanted to know from your side, the main objective of API is to basically extract the value from the basically I can say it's a from unstructured data, or I can say where the basically bot is unable to
It's not
let's say
unstructured. It's a structured Akash. It's not unstructured. It's a structured schema. JSON is a
okay.
structured object notation. So from there, we will be accessing the values with the help of node names. It will be always structured.
Okay. Okay.
But the thing is, like for all the APIs, we are going to get the response in the JSON format only. Okay.
Okay.
So any question, guys? Okay. So we just discussed about only the JSON. We didn't even discuss anything, not even a single thing regarding the APIs. So we are still pending with API introduction by API. Activities for API. Authentication methods. Small info about Postman. So UI Swagger. Types of APIs. API methods. How to import services and create custom drag and drop. This will be doing it very last, but this is much more important, guys. You will not find anywhere how we are going to do it. And these are the things which are pending. So probably tomorrow we will cover only theory, and day after tomorrow we are going to cover with the um introduction. We are going to cover with the practice hands-on for API. And I think by that time we are going to close it by Thursday. And then we'll start with the RE framework. Okay. Let me
So
know if
path
you have any.
basically path. So
Yeah.
invoke workflow we are going to cover in the RE framework, right?
Yeah, just before RE framework.
Okay.
Not only invoke workflow, man, like we have invoke method, we have invoke code, we have a couple of other things as well.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, if you don't